Today I learned that somewhere between 50 and 70% of companies are using AI now to give performance reviews for employees. Now this does include active monitoring, and not all companies have to report that they are using AI, and I find this very distressing. This is kind of one of the worst uses of AI, but of course it was going to happen. Welcome to the Panopticon. I also want to say that I've read several reviews and several studies on how people react to this kind of monitoring, and it does not seem to result in better employee behavior. I mean, in the very beginning, they might improve their behavior or improve their mood, but over time, people slip. You cannot just monitor people and expect long-term good outcomes. I guess if you have a whole lot of employee turnover and they only make it that far, I could see the argument for doing it, but yeah, please don't. First off, what is a panopticon? This is a fairly old style of prison. It was never widely used, but the idea is that somebody can stay in that tower, you can have less employees, and they can monitor everyone, and no one really knows if they're being watched or not. So if they believe they're being watched, then clearly they'll behave. They were never really widely used, in part because they are just wildly impractical. The United States had one, it closed in 2016. Cuba had one, closed in 1967. And the Netherlands had 3, and they are now art centers. Now, if you have a great deal of stress for any reason, behavior can get worse. If you know it, going postal is a phrase for a reason. That wasn't just one incident either. That happened over the course of a decade. So perhaps we don't want people to feel so constrained that eventually they snap. Now, some companies have come under fire for their use of AI that continuously monitors employee performance, and that includes Kaiser Permanente, who used it for their call nurses. That's the kind of thing where you call on the back of your insurance card and you get to talk to a nurse to get some advice at home, and they tell you whether or not you should go to the doctor. A lot of companies that use them are call centers, because they can have an AI that continuously monitors their voice and figures out if they are speaking nicely to people. It is hard to get an exact number on how many companies are using AI to monitor employees. I've seen numbers like 78% in 2023, and that is monitoring software. But we might find out if privacy ever becomes a legal problem. Do you have a reasonable expectation of privacy for an AI staring into your soul? I guess we'll find out. Newsweek released an article that it could be as high as 50% today that are specifically using AI to monitor employees. Evidently, Meta employees were not even told that this was happening. Of the many jobs I've had, one of them was working as a medical assistant at a clinic, and they had cameras on us, and one day I got called into the employer's office because I was leaning on things too much, and I just didn't look busy. Granted, there was nobody in the clinic at the time, but I despise having cameras on me. I feel that being monitored would cause my stress levels to increase a lot. One of the things you should not be concerned about, and I have heard a lot of people express this concern, no, your phone's camera is not tracking your eye movement. Not unless you signed up for an app that specifically does that. And I have seen some proposals for it, but not currently implemented. AI actually has enough data from people who have signed up for those kinds of studies that it doesn't really need to track your eyes. It already knows where they'll go. One of the things that does alarm me is how ineffective this technology is, and yet it is still used and marketed. We have decades of literature that monitoring people like this does not result in increased performance. But every new technology we have, they just roll it out again. And I feel like a lot of our technology is like that. I mean, a lot of things are like that. One of the things that does worry me with the capabilities of AI right now is that they will be implemented for retail workers, and they'll just be watched all day long, and an AI will give their review. Were they chipper enough? Did they have good interactions with customers? I don't like cameras on me, and I know that's a little bit ironic. I'm not a big fan of flock cameras, and yes, they also hallucinate a lot, but even if they didn't, I would not support this use. I hope you've enjoyed this, or at least found it informative. I will keep you up to date. Follow for more.